Good evening. I want to call the Columbia County Board of Commissioners September 7th, 2021 meeting to order. Ask Vice Chairman Richardson to open us with the invocation.
Join me in the prayer, please. Lord Jesus, we come to you. We thank you for this day. We thank you for this wonderful place that we call home and blessings that you bestow. Lord, we ask you to be with many people that are around struggling and going through hard times with flooding. Lord, we just lift up our military and the families of those that lost loved ones recently. Ask you to be with them and give them comfort. Lord, we ask you to be with our first responders, keep them safe. Be with us as we go through this meeting and give us wisdom and guidance as we make.
Please stand for the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, republic for one nation, God, visible, liberty.
Records show we have a full quorum of commissioners. Commissioners, the minutes from the August 17th meeting are in your packet. All accept.
Motion to accept, sir.
Second.
Any questions? All in favor, raise your right hand. Minutes are approved. Mr. Johnson, anything change on the agenda, or are we good to go?
I believe you're good to go, Mr. Chairman.
Special recognition, respect to the consent agenda. Commissioners, you have these items on the consent agenda that have been through the necessary committee and received the votes to be placed on this agenda. So still meet with your approval. I'll accept a motion to approve them all.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Any questions? All in favor, raise your right hand. Okay, we're going to go straight to debate the new business, and we're going to go to Commissioner Skinner.
Okay, Mr. Chair, item A1, file RZ 210807. I make a motion to approve the request for the applicant to withdraw their rezoning application without prejudice.
Second.
Yes, so this was a request to rezone from R3 to a P1, a professional zoning at this location. They were going to use this property, property for an adult daycare, but they have requested to withdraw.
Architectural drawing.
That's actually showing their layout there, what they plan on doing. Not as quite as good as the one I drew last week, if y'all remember, but close.
Any questions? Apparently not. All in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries.
Next, item A2, I make a motion to approve the request for a rezoning from PUD to M1 for property located at tax map 072-231G and a portion of 200D for proposed light industrial uses subject to the conditions enumerated in the August 19th, 2021 Planning Commission report.
This is rezoning. This land was previously M1. It was rezoned to a PUD. We had RecTech was looking to build their headquarters here. They ended up not doing so. This is a request to go back to the M1 to do office warehouse spacing. You'll have a variance. If you approve this, there'll be a variance that comes up next. I'll be happy to explain when that comes up.
All of this will be inside the buildings, no outside storage.
Correct.
Any other questions? All in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries.
Okay, next item, A3, BA 210805, is a variance to section 9098, list of lot and structural requirements, tax map 072, parcels 231G, and a portion of 200D, 11.7 plus or minus total acres combined, located at 3001 McCrary Court, and a portion of the property off Industrial Park Drive and currently zoned planned unit development.
Second.
Here you have a requirement that the maximum building setback is from the center line of Industrial Park Drive. I believe it's 55 feet. Along here, we have a state waters, which also has a 25-foot buffer interior to the lot. There's no way for them to build meet our requirements and meet EPD requirements. So this is waiving our requirement to have the buildings pushed up to the road and allow them to set it back and build on the available space.
Will meet EPD requirements?
They will. They'll have to stay the 25 foot away from the stream buffer. They'll have to stay 25 foot away from the stream to make sure the buffer stays intact. Correct.
These are pretty much be invisible from the road.
They'll be hidden. They'll be hidden well. There's a, I know we didn't talk about it in the last one you did the rezoning, but there's also a condition that they cannot touch this area back here to separate from one Marshall place. I believe it's about a 40-foot buffer, 15 foot of it they cannot touch at all. I'm sorry, 25 foot of it they cannot touch at all. The other 15 they can tie into, then replant it. So this will be, it'll be hidden, I hope.
Questions? All in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries.
Next item, A4, file RZ 210809. I make a motion to approve the request for a rezoning from R1 and C1 to R1 for property located at tax map 069-097A.
Second.
This request takes a property that's currently split between residential and commercial use. It'll take it all back to a residential use. It was originally going to be a farm sales type place back in the 70s that just never came to fruition.
Back in the 70s, before you were born, is what you were born.
Before I was born, yes, sir.
Any other questions, comments? All in favor, raise your right hand. Carries.
Item A5, file RZ 2108-10. I make a motion to approve the request for a rezoning from C2 to C3 for property located at tax map 078D 12A for a proposed construction office with storage and parking.
Second.
Again, this is a rezone from C2 to C3. When our use tables changed, it required C3 zoning for office, contractor's office space, and this is what they're looking to do here. There'll be some variances that are required as well if this does pass.
Questions? All in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries.
Next, Mr. Chair, is item A6, file VA 210806. I make a motion to approve the request for variances to section 90-98, list of lot and structure requirements, 90-139, buffers and screening, 90-147, H1C, use provisions for property located at tax map 078D012 for a 5 foot northern side and rear setback, 2.5 foot southern side setback, remove buffers to the adjacent C2 zoning, and the 10-foot wide buffer requirements being waived from the side and the rear property lines, subject to the conditions enumerated in the August 19th, 2021 Planning Commission report.
Second.
The motion's a mouthful. Basically boils down to, now that you have dissimilar zonings, you just recently approved going to C3. Below them is C2, so they now require a larger buffer. Since this building is existing, the existing building is here. They're asking to lower that minimum build line down to 2.5 feet. Also showing a minimum build line of 5 foot on that property line, 5 foot minimum build line on that property line. You will still have to have the 10-foot landscape strip back here in the back facing Settlement Road. But basically, all this is done to keep this existing building where it needs to be and allow the building to be expanded. I got busy there. This is the expansion of the existing building. Existing building sits here. It's basically allowing the building to sit where it is, be expanded, and getting rid of the buffers required between the different dissimilar zonings. Works in this area.
All in favor, raise your right hand. Carries.
Item A7, file RZ 210811. I make a motion to approve the request for a change of conditions for property located at tax map 078-048F to remove the conditions for buffers to remain undisturbed, subject to the conditions enumerated in the August 19th, 2021 Planning Commission report.
Second.
Go over the conditions that are removed and what's added?
Yes, sir. So on the original plan that was approved, there was this area here had a 15-foot undisturbed buffer. That was, again, a part of the conditions of planning, part of the conditions that were placed on it for the construction of this site. During construction, they did get into that buffer and take it down. Kept coming back to staff, looking for ways of moving forward the project. Staff explained to them over and over again, you must mitigate this encroachment into the buffer. What they did finally come back to us and propose to us was instead of the 15-foot undisturbed buffer in this location, they came back to us with a 25-foot structural buffer. The buffer got 10 foot bigger and is now going to require a fence. Teresa, I think if you go to hoping they have a better site layout. There you go. So now you'll have this dark line here, here is the property line. So 5 foot up from that property line will be the buffer. You will then have a fence, 6 foot tall fence on top of the hill. So this is the high ground up here. This is lower ground down here. So the fence is on top of the high ground, 25 foot of plantings. They're calling out for 3-inch caliper trees. Get all the different trees that are in there. It's a good mixture of trees. Some 7-gallon shrubs, some 15-gallon shrubs, I believe, also in there. This will remain, the rest of the area here will remain a 15-foot buffer. They currently show on the plans that there will be a 6-foot shadow box privacy fence. It will be 2 foot from the property line. So in this case, in this area here, you'll have all the landscaping and then a fence on top of the hill. The rest of the property, the fence will be on the property line and all the landscaping will be inside of it. That makes sense.
Now, do they violate the property lines on the top line?
Not that I'm aware of, no, sir.
Well, you said that they're gonna put a fence on the property line, is that allowed?
They do, their plans call for a fence along the property line. However, the area that we really had the major concern with was this area here where they violated the buffer. So that's why the way the current plans were, the way the original plans were presented, the shadow box fence was an option. This change condition is guaranteeing they have to put a fence here.
But only on that one side.
Correct, where that buffer was violated. And I believe they're actually gonna go all the way down this side too. Is that correct, Will? They're all the way down this side. So that whole side there is conditioned to have a fence based on the way Commissioner Skinner read the recommendation, if I heard you correctly.
Do they need to have a fence on the top part too?
They're calling out the fence on the plans, but it's
not a condition, so
not
it's
a
not-
condition.
Can we
Correct.
add that, Mr. Scanlon?
Yes, we could add to the motion.
That the shadow box fence extend along the north side?
The entire perimeter must have shadow box fence as called out. Bo, are you here? I think I saw Bo.
Mr. Chair,
Not the front side, not the entire.
Not
perimeter,
the front, I'm sorry, not the front. But this part here will all be required to have the shadow box fence, as the plan is shown.
I'm in a motion to
That make sense, Bo?
add a condition of fencing to be shadow box completely around the property except for the front.
I have another question. Tell me about the runoff issues. I'm hearing from the neighbors in an adjoining neighborhood that there's runoff. Can you give me a synopsis of what stormwater's telling you?
Yes, ma'am, they
All that.
They do have some runoff issues from the site. A lot of it's going into this pond here that's on the neighboring property. I believe there's some common ownership in the properties there. They've done a tremendous amount of additional work to that pond. Bo is their engineer. Bo, if you want to hear from the engineer himself and what he's done, you want to invite him up. But this pond then drains down into Jones Creek Estates. We've recently been testing their outfalls, showing a turbidity of about 100, which is not bad for construction in this area. It's actually pretty decent. We've had other sites in the thousands, their turbidity. This one is right around 100. So what they've been doing has been helping tremendously. Of course, getting the site built and covered up will be the ultimate solution. So we want them to, if you approve this, we want them to do it fast, get it in ground as fast as possible. But Bo's here if you have any other questions about their design.
So if the adjoining neighborhood, I hate to beat a dead horse, but if the adjoining neighborhood continues to say my pond. And I did see pictures, and it looked orange, but sometimes, orange water is not necessarily filled. I mean, it's just dirty water.
Recourse?
What recourse does the other neighbor
Become a
have?
civil matter between two property owners. There's laws that these developers are required to follow. That's our job, is to ensure they're following the erosion control laws, and our staff's out there doing it. When we see problems, we put stop work orders on the site. Been doing it. Tough battle to prove that every bit of silt in the pond came from one site. That's a tough piece of evidence to basically solidify.
Often a stop work order just prolongs
Can,
how long
absolutely.
it is until you can get grass on the ground.
Absolutely can.
Have the authority to cancel the project, if we so chose.
No.
If the remediation for the runoff is not complete, do we have the authority to stop work on it?
But yeah, if they're not following the erosion control requirements, then you need to do a stop work order. There's other potential tools to use violations and take them to court. Other things, there's also civil litigation between the property owners. There's a variety of ways to deal. What you're looking at is a stop work order and trying to get them to do the right thing and fix it.
Mr. Slaughter, have you heard from anybody in the other neighborhood? Come up here so we can hear you. Sorry to put you on the spot, but you knew when you came we might get a hold of you. Have you heard from anybody in the adjoining neighborhood?
No, ma'am, other than the last meeting when they were here, I think that was the biggest concern was the pond, but I haven't been contacted.
So just kind of expand on what Mr. Driver was telling you earlier. So the stop work orders is an enforcement tool we have, citations, putting them in front of the judge, let the judge decide what they have to do. We can't stop the project from being built as long as they're following our rules and regulations. However, if they were to walk away, we do have a bond where we can go put grass on it. That's the extent of what we have in place is a bond that we'd go put some winter rye and some Bermuda down and hope it turns into a green pasture.
But that had to be voluntary. They had to voluntarily walk away from the project.
They would have to walk away from it.
Couldn't
That's right.
make them
If
walk
they walked away and didn't finish their job, that's the only time we would do that. We've never done that in Columbia County.
In the notes from planning and zoning, it says that you think that the construction, this part will be complete in 45 days. You still feel confident?
45 to 60 days, I mean, because once this is done, they go back to do full work. I know they've been installing Georgia Power, so they've been doing a little bit that they could while this got worked out. So the plan is for things to hit the ground running and get the pavement in there and get this thing done.
All the retaining walls and all that?
Painting walls, the fence, the plantings, everything. That time.
And you feel good that when all the site work is done and the plantings are in, buffers are in place like they're supposed to be, that will take care of the runoff that is allegedly going into the Jones Creek pond?
The runoff will still be going into the ponds that we have next to it.
The big pond on the.
Right, there's two of them. There's actually, we're gonna leave the sediment basin in place throughout the house construction. That's gonna try to keep it down to the 100 NTUs. I haven't seen 100 in a while, so that's great news.
Impressive.
I didn't know that, but that's good. So it is working. I mean, that big pond there filters, plus our sediment basin is catching most all the particles. So, but it'll stay in place until all the houses are built out, and then everything will be stabilized and then grassed, and hopefully that'll take care of off.
And then what happens if the neighbors are still not happy? That's a civil issue? And
Yes, ma'am. So if everything has been done as far as county code, state regulation, and they're still not happy, that becomes a civil matter between them.
And between your stamp and our staff, we will ensure that it's done to state.
But they can't walk away from this until a notice of termination is issued. And that requires 100% 70% stabilization on 100% of the site. Pretty tough to do without sod and lots of plants, and so we won't release them from this project until they've achieved that.
Sorry, I had
No, no,
to,
that's-
I just need to be sure for my folks over there.
Any other questions? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Any other comments,
Get a
questions?
second
Yeah,
on
you have a motion, you have an amended motion, you need a second on that amended motion?
Second,
I did.
We have an amended motion, so you seconded the amended
and the
motion?
amendment.
I heard your amendment, the amendment is, the second is.
Second.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
sorry.
Okay.
Any other questions? All in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries. Commissioner Richardson,
Yes, sir. Motion to reject the proposal from Cinco Lighting, audit and update the county street light.
Second.
Thank you, sir. This was we actually sent out requests for proposals for streetlight procedure audit. We received back one. We've worked with this company to get their costs down as low as we could. We've also started working with Georgia Power. Georgia Power has started providing some of this data that we were asking for. This time, rejecting these bids is perfectly fine. Allow staff time to work with Georgia Power. I'll also look at going back out for a proposal to do an amended version of this if we need to in the future.
this is stopping us employing a contractor to do a study, a consultant.
Correct.
Well,
Except all these.
the streetlights, right? Yeah. Okay. Any other questions or comments? All in favor, raise your right hand.
I make a motion to reject the speed bump program procedure update.
Your second? I rule that it dies for lack of second. Is there another motion to be made?
Yes, sir. I'll make a motion to accept the speed hump program and amend it to a 51% threshold.
Second?
Questions, comments? 51?
Oh, yeah, I have some. So staff is recommending 25%. Your motion is 51%.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Prickett, can I get you to come forward, sir?
Yes, sir.
Kind of just bring us up to speed where we're at today.
Well, this
The
is the
record.
updated,
Randy, just say your name and address.
I'm
for the
sorry, Randy Prickett, Traffic Engineering Manager. All right, so we went back and looked at the old policy that we currently have from '07. Looked in some of the manuals, looked in some of the bigger cities that have speed hump policies. The actual ITE manual, which is a guide that we follow, is updated to kind of show that the way we do it may have been right in '07. I wasn't here then. Things have changed. They really want a lot more community involvement in these studies because speeding, I mean, it really is within the neighborhood. Speed humps don't stop you from speeding. They make it uncomfortable when you do speed. You'd be comfortable at 25 miles per hour. You're over a speed hump. There's a 6-foot elevation going up, 10 foot at top, and then there's 6 foot going down. So you should be comfortable. If you're speeding, it's going to make it uncomfortable. So I guess their thinking is that you really need input from the entire neighborhood to make this work. So that's kind of where this policy is went. We've kind of amended it. We saw some other issues that we had in the policy with smaller roads. They could not meet with the 251 cars per day threshold. There's no way that some of these roads can meet that. They had the speeds, but not the vehicle traffic. So we amended that part of it too to make it where even the smaller roads could actually pass a speed hump study if they have the speed. So that's kind of where I guess it was submitted. We went through this for about 6 or 8 months, going back and forth through it, trying to get it amended to where we're at now, I guess.
So, being a former police officer,
Yes, sir.
how do we know if somebody's speeding in a neighborhood?
Well,
Can you get somebody, can somebody get a speeding ticket in a neighborhood?
not necessarily a speeding ticket, no, sir.
Roll can.
From Trooper.
State Patrol can, a trooper can. A trooper is the only one that actually.
State Patrol doesn't go in the neighborhoods.
Do
do
we
they?
have any state patrols in our neighborhood?
Not very rarely. We have had them a couple times, we've called them. I think Con Drive was an example. But very rarely.
Okay, and what is the percentage of these studies pass or failure?
I think in the last 5 years, we had close to 230, 240, right in that area. I can't exactly remember the number. And there was almost 6% that have passed.
That pass?
6%.
So do you think it kind of judges itself or rules for itself? Do you think if one passes, obviously there's a need for people speeding in that neighborhood?
I think if it passes the study, we need to implement some kind of security.
Whether one person, 10%, 50% of the people decide whether that, so now we telling those people that, you don't have to, because you're not going to get jumps in here, you kind of go like whatever you want to do and however you like it. You can't get a speeding ticket.
Are you asking my opinion, or?
Yeah, kind of.
I mean, as my opinion, I mean, I really think it needs more input from the community. I think that most of our requests come from the person that lives at the top of the neighborhood that's not gonna have to deal with going over these 8 or 10, but you also have other things to look at. It slows your emergency vehicles down.
I agree with you, and I don't mean to cut you
Yes,
off.
sir. Yes, sir.
But the guy at the end of the
Yes, sir.
neighborhood that don't want them, damn, ain't nobody going in front of his house.
Yeah, but he has to go through all of them every
He
time.
does, and he's
I mean,
probably got a speed to get out of the neighborhood.
I understand. I think it's a twofold picture. I mean, I can see your point and see the updated point. I get both of them.
I'm gonna approach this from my risk-averse bias. Say someone was speeding, and they haven't been caught the last 9 times, but the 10th time they run over a child. As an officer, is the black box on a vehicle gonna be summoned?
It can be. It depends on the department.
So now, on the 10th event, we do have him. So, Mr. Driver, in that situation with liability, does the county have?
I think they never say you could never have liability. I think that we would be.
So it's a value judgment. 51% involves everybody, and there is a burden for the requester to go through the work of getting their application and getting their petition signed.
How many do you
Yes, sir.
think, how many speed studies you think will pass with 51%? We might as well just do away with speed humps. You think that's the thing to do?
I don't know. I mean,
Do you think we will have any that pass?
I think so.
Do you
I
think-
really do. I think we'll have
Neighborhood
some.
will get 51% of the people to sign up?
On the street.
It's a street. It's just a street. Now, and I think it's, I mean, I think it's possible. I mean, I don't know. We haven't done this before. This is what, other agencies have done. So I don't know, but I would think we would. If it's a problem on the street, and look, in Columbia County, it's a quality of life area. People walk up and down the street, so they're gonna notice it. They're gonna see it. So, I mean, I would imagine that it'd be a neighborhood issue.
And that's my concern.
Yeah.
We have so many cars parking on the street. People walking down the street. Some have neighborhoods. The newer neighborhoods, we probably don't have as much problem because we putting calming measures in these neighborhoods as we approve them now. It's the older neighborhoods where the problems are. And then you got people parking all out in the street and somebody steps outside. We're not having a lot of people get run over by cars, but I don't know.
My only question is back to, we talked about 25%. I was of the opinion we need more than one person just to drive this. Want to go to 51%? Does that match the streetlight? Does that work? I mean, is it why? Where's the magic in that?
Streetlight's 75% buy-in.
Streetlights is 75%. The 51% is what came from the manual.
Manual.
51 or is it 50?
I think it's 50.
51, I believe.
Is it 51?
I think it's 51.
51. That's whatever, yeah, I think that was in the manual.
So that's standard, customary One. Mr. Prickett, how much does it cost when we do one of these studies? Like time, energy, effort, people, manpower, equipment?
I haven't broke down as far as the cost. Time-wise, it takes about 15 hours, about a day and a half with everything that has to be done. And it's not constant on that one project, but you have to go back and forth and have a lot of paperwork and stuff.
So with the new way, what you gonna have, you still gonna have the
It's
same,
relatively,
same amount of time?
it's relatively the same. Really, it really
So
is.
no cost savings to the county?
No, just it actually, I don't foresee it being too much of a difference in, as far as cost savings go.
Wouldn't it be a cost savings if you don't have to do the study because you didn't get 51%?
Oh, yes, ma'am.
So there'll be
Yes.
way fewer studies done, I believe. If he's correct that 51% never happens, we'll never get 51%, then we won't be doing very many studies.
That's right. If we don't receive the petition back with at least 51% signatures on it, we won't do the study.
But what we changed is there's more work for y'all now before the study than previously. Previously, any individual could call in and ask for a study, put it on the list, and we do it during the school year,
Right.
Tuesday through Thursday. We go out there, we do it, it's a 24-hour study. You come back, you analyze the data, and it either passes or fails, and then it's an answer whether you move forward. Now, there's more work for y'all before we do it, before you go out and do the study.
No, sir, not necessarily, because we don't do the study. For us to leave and go out, take the time to drive somewhere and put the tubes out, and stuff like
Saying
that.
that,
So all the admin will be doing is she'll actually take the names of the property owners on that street and put them in a petition like she does the Streetlight. And then we'll either email it to whoever's requesting, or they can come by and pick it up, or however they want to get it. So, I mean, that takes a little bit less time than actually having to load everything up, go out there, measure, put the tubes down correctly, and secure the box somewhere, and set the box up and everything.
But you're drawing it out, you're gonna have to do, and I don't know how long it takes you to lay out a street, draw it out, and let that person, whoever that person is, know where
The speed humps
are going to be, so that staff's got to go through that work.
Yeah.
Whatever that is. Then that person would go out, canvass the neighborhood, get 51%,
Yes, sir.
then come back or tear it up because they didn't
Right.
get that.
It's fairly similar. I mean, you'll have two different people doing the initial instead of just one person going out. But I guess if you add both the times up for what the admin does for the petition, and then what the analyst is doing for the layout of the street, for the speed humps to attach to the petition.
So is it actually less or more cost?
I think it's a little less, to be honest with
Less?
you.
Depends on whether you get 51% or not.
Well, before you even get to that part,
51%, you're gonna have the same amount, plus all of the administrative work that they had to do.
well,
go
they
out
won't
and
have
do
to do the administrative work. If according to page 3 of the proposed program, there's 9 bullet points of things that have to be, you have to check all these boxes before the requester can even get an application to get the petition. So first, the individual comes in and talks to them, and they go through these bullet points. And if your street satisfies all of these 9 items, then you can get the application.
That's right.
And that person can then go out and try to get
But
those.
they are gonna have to do the work before that person goes out.
Kind of work.
Lay it out, lay out the street, lay out where each street speed hump would go.
He's talking about
Because-
the initial.
But now you're coming to me and you're saying, will you sign this petition because we're gonna put a speed hump right here in front of your house? So y'all are gonna have to do all of that work before this person starts going out canvassing, correct?
We'll have to do the layout of the speed humps. Then, of course,
Which none of that's done now, till after the fact, if it meets or doesn't meet.
And that the people who's gonna give speed hump for their house shouldn't get to say before we get to that point?
I'm saying it needs to be the way it's been for last, when was the,
07.
07 years. I'm saying 90% didn't qualify. But the ones that did, there's a need, regardless of whether one person says it or whether everybody on that street says it. There is a need.
Commissioner, are you saying that we should give them speed humps whether they want them or not? If
Absolutely, I
more
am.
people say we don't want it, then they do want it. The majority of people don't want it. Give it to them anyway.
I don't want to drive 45 on William Pugh, but I do. I mean, the same thing, that same thing. So,
Mr. Prickett, one of the issues I think you have is the open requests. Look like they're dating from August of 2016.
When we stopped the
So
program.
the information that we have on those open requests, how would they be used on a request that someone made today?
Talking about the current request we have right now?
Yes, sir.
Okay, since we
Yes.
stopped with COVID.
Yes. Yes, sir.
Well, I think in there, it was said that we would go with the new version if it passes, or if it doesn't pass, we just go back with the old version. That can be completely up to you guys if you want to just grandfather the old one in for what's on the books now to be done. We're about 54 on the books.
But you've already done the warrant work on the road.
Or make sure they all fit the road.
Meter don't meet.
Yes, sir. As far as the type and size and width and everything.
Page 3 addresses that. It says, "This procedure shall apply to all requests for speed humps as of January 1st, 2020." So that's, as the motion stands now, everything that's in the queue will follow this procedure.
Okay.
so all those people that we told that we were gonna do their speed hump study, we're gonna go back and reach out and say, we're not going to do your speed.
I don't think we've told them we're doing the study. We took their request, but we have not reached back out to them with anything at this point.
Not yet.
So they're in the queue waiting to be told if they qualify or not for speed humps. Not even qualify, if their road meets the criteria to do the study. That's where they're waiting to be told if they meet the criteria to even do the study.
Everybody on this list meets that criteria.
Correct. But we have not responded back to them, letting them know we were coming to do the study. While we're in the, well,
Unless you change
COVID
it.
is really what stopped us.
Yeah.
I get that. We stopped last
Right.
year because of the school system. We didn't want studies.
Right.
When the
Yes, sir.
traffic was not
Correct,
normal traffic.
correct.
Thank you, Randy.
Thank you, sir.
25 is really good with me. I like more than one person.
In my district, 25% could mean one person when 4 people live on the road. In Commissioner Miller's district, it's a little,
A little more
Different.
dense.
yeah.
But what you just said, in your district, that one person, how many people don't live in that district but are flying down that one person? If they meet, how many people's going down that man's road?
Well, then
A
everybody
lot
knows,
of 'em.
then everybody knows that they are.
Well, there's a motion on the floor and a second. I think we probably debated it to death. Any other comments? All right, motion on the floor. All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed? Carries 4-1.
Make a motion to approve the proposal from Turner Engineering for the Harlem Interceptor project in the amount of $78,667.06.
Second?
This is a proposal that Vice Chair Richardson asked us to go back and look at again, and we did, and we saved from 7% construction cost down to 6.3% of the construction cost based on his advice, and staff's recommend approval of the revised rate.
The motion was to approve, right? Okay. I just want to make
We
sure.
don't,
I just want to make sure I heard right.
I think I
Okay.
seconded an approval.
Okay.
All in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries. No legal matters.
No legal matters.
Request for review by committee. Any public comments? Judy? Okay. No executive session, but we have a few items we can deal right here and now, some property issues. Mr. Richardson, I'll pass it back to you.
make a motion to approve $15,700 to the Georgia State Properties Commission, parcel 0690 1B for right-of-way, permanent and temporary easement for Horizon South Parkway Road widening.
Second.
Any questions? All in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries.
Make a motion to approve $11,100 to Robert Percival, parcel 061-020M, right-of-way, permanent.
Second.
Questions? Favor, raise your right hand.
Make a motion to approve $23,000 to Robert Hare, parcel 0, right-of-way, permanent and temporary easements for the Lewis project.
Second.
Questions? All in favor, raise your right hand.
Make a motion to approve $7,100 to Dwayne Deloach, parcel 074010, and to accept the donation for right-of-way, permanent and temporary, Alfred Creek.
Second.
All in favor, raise your right hand.
Make a motion to accept the donation from Catherine Selby and Catherine Branch, parcel 068959E for the right-of-way, permanent and temporary Sugar Gateway borderline project.
Is that correct?
Where is
The
she?
it goes from Sugar Creek Drive, which is on the north side of I-20, over to the Gateway area, so they just shortened the name to Sugar Gateway. Just to-
Like a slash in between. Making sure we're not
We'll
voting.
put a
for some
slash in it.
Shaky new district we're not aware of here. There's a second, right? All in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries. I think that's all we have on the agenda. Any more motions need to be made?
Chairman, I motion that we adjourn.
All in favor, raise your right hand. We're adjourned. See you September 21st.